Waiting for the next thing, whether it's a new moment, an accomplishment, or an event, can feel like a never-ending loop. Because it is so deeply embedded in our social upbringing, this way of thinking goes unnoticed. Subtly but surely, it drags us away from the here and now and into a future that we either dread or excitedly await. Anxieties, tension, and a desire for a future beyond the present moment are all results of this continual projection. However, genuine liberty and tranquility can be discovered in the present moment, the one and only instant that ever exists. Relaxing the mind. Refraining from resisting the present moment as it unfolds enables us to fully experience it as we release the desire to wait. We are all part of the same inclination to look forward, thinking that the next moment will be better than this one. So this change in perspective is a collective as well as an individual one. Still, we learn that there is no such thing as a future. There is just this very moment. We are invited to delve into the power of truly enjoying the present moment, finding serenity in accepting what is, and appreciating the calm that comes with stopping to search for something else on this journey. Before continuing, I believe you're here for a reason. You're willing to grow as a person, to develop yourself to become more present and conscious. For that reason, I recommend you to subscribe to our channel. As growth comes with continuity, our channel provides many videos to help you with this path to enlightenment. There are times when you can tell someone isn't fully present just by looking at their reactions, interactions, and behavior. They fail to show up because they are always thinking about some faraway future, either one that they are in a rush to reach or one that they are terrified will come true. People radiate an attitude that says, "I'd rather be somewhere else. I'm not here." It's like those stickers that say, "I'd rather be fishing," or something similar, on some people's cars. The expression on their faces and the energy they exude say it all. However, it is the attitude, "I would prefer to be in another place." They seem to be constantly on the hunt for something. The energy and tension that accompany being totally engrossed in one's thoughts are what you may expect when you do this. They are definitely not comfortable right now. And that's only the surface level. You may go on living that way forever. Right now is where the body would rather be. Therefore, that is a trend in society as a whole, not an individual issue. Since it isn't anybody's business, it's easy to see this psychological urge for the next moment and the discomfort with the present moment in oneself. This mentality is characterized by a fixation on the future, with the expectation that it will be more satisfying than the present. The next moment can only come as this one again, so it never really comes. It's the same every time. Therefore, there is the anxious thinking that follows. There must be something more. This isn't it. This cannot be it. This idea represents the anxiety of what the future holds. However, so there's this ebb and flow of worrying about the future, but even in that worry, you're looking ahead to some other time, whether it's a minute, a week, or a year from now. Is there anything that could happen to the planet, to you, or to someone you care about? You have a premonition of something bad that could happen in the future, and you're confident it will. Those terrifying things could happen to me, and then they play out in my head, making me anxious about what the future holds. But there's also this peculiar want, almost like an addiction, to want more of it. It turns out to be self-serving, even if it's a terrible state to be in. The goal is to ensure its own survival. That steadily worsening condition of anxious apprehension and negative self-perception. No, this is important. I need to watch this. Sorry about this fear of the future, the person responds when someone says stop. You don't need to, despite the fact that they continue to obsessively imagine a future filled with terror. The lived experience of many cases of dementia paralysis. Next comes the longing for self-improvement, for anything I can incorporate into my identity. Naturally, I can't do that without looking forward. Some things require more of my attention. These two emotions, apprehension and longing, are closely related to a way of thinking that permeates and sustains this future. One can see that in themselves. You will feel a degree of liberation the instant you become aware of its presence within you. That is an unusual condition, characterized by mental protection, restlessness, and discomfort with the reality as it is. Regular. This life is not sincere. Everything in life revolves around the present moment. This very moment is such that it encompasses all of existence. Bearing contentment resides safely in the present and is gently led to the what is now is always what is, because your experience is always limited to this 1 second. If your attitude is one of rejection, denial, resistance, or denial of the present moment, then you have a relationship with life that is characterized by a lack of openness to the lovely thing that is not an object, life itself. Both within and outside of us exists a limitless intelligence and a grandeur that surpasses that of the human mind. Still, when you find yourself ensnared in these group thoughts, you have no idea a contraction has occurred. Therefore, it is wonderful to be able to identify it in oneself. Yeah, that's it, that contraction, that unease, which of course leads to illness if you do it for a few years, occurs frequently with the realization that this mentality is operating, that you need the future and can feel it even in your body. Realization is the first step toward liberation. There is a way out of the cycle for you. The viewing of it is what you experience again and again. And after witnessing, you don't do anything farther. Nothing is deduced from this. Keep in mind that we discussed not jumping to conclusions and instead perceiving the transience of all forms, the transience of all phenomenal existences, and the briefness of all life. Maintain your focus on perceiving it, and in this regard too, to recognize patterns within oneself and remain steadfast in this observation, rather than jumping to the conclusion that says, "You see, you're not enlightened, you're not going to make it. After 15 years of meditation, you're still doing it. You see, what's the point? You might as well give up," as the internal monologue says. As the following, then, one conclusion follows another, or at the very beginning, your mind tells you, "I have arrived," and you begin to write a book about it. You see, you're no good. You're doing it again. You've done the workshop, whatever it's called, the retreat, and you're doing it again. It's pointless. You can't do it. Additionally, there are many more conclusions. If we limit ourselves to observing these patterns, we open ourselves up to the potential of entering the null. Most of the time, you don't even have to think about it happening. One may say that just by perceiving, one is already escaping those thought habits. It's becoming increasingly difficult for people to perform those habits with their minds, for they allow themselves to think. You might as well stay a few days here if this is all you catch, but I promise you that I will only try to impart one thing to you. If you want to stay away from the term teaching, stay with this one. Just a handful of things. With one thing in particular, it's not so much about having a cerebral understanding of it as it is about really catching it, leaving behind the mental ruts that are inextricably linked to the passage of time is, if you can grasp just this one idea, liberation. Naturally, we also covered the past and the future. Since then, no scientific experiment has been completed that hasn't shown the existence of another planet. By bringing your focus here, in the present moment, your awareness and your attention away from being totally absorbed in mental, emotional, or environmental forms, you can experience what seems like a sudden disconnection from time and thought. Together, they enter the present moment, the realm of the present that was before inaccessible to you. Simply realizing that you can transcend your mental and temporal limitations and enter the present moment is an awakening. From that place of identification, you emerge into, oh, this moment. A state of heightened awareness, similar to jolting awake from a dream, takes hold. When you snap out of it, your eyes open, and you realize, oh, that was all a dream. Somehow, I've come to this place unseen, sun-filtered superview. There's a noticeable qualitative difference between that level of awareness, the attentive present, and the dreamlike condition of being totally absorbed in mental patterns. Ancient Indian gurus have been using the word awakening for thousands of years to describe the world as an illusion and the impossibility of changing one's perspective on it. Buddha is the name of the awakened one. Stay awake is something Jesus says. Remain alert, do not fall asleep. He was alluding to a level of awareness. When you're in that state of mind identification, it's like waking up from a deep slumber. There's a noticeable qualitative change. Thus, it is accurate to state that those whose lives are entirely dominated by their thoughts exist in a state of lucid dreaming. It's the dream you're essentially born into, the indoctrination. Keep in mind the woman I spoke about earlier today who grumbled, "Welcome to my nightmare." In a way, it becomes a shared nightmare. As a part of the collective programming, everyone has their own set of dreams and experiences. The next stage is to figure out how to get out of that jam. Only because the condition of present is already emerging in you, as if by grace, are you able to achieve that. I can assure you of this because I have been there, and I can tell you that you may emerge from that condition of complete mental and temporal immersion into the infinite beauty and sacredness of the present moment. Plus, it's pointless if you can't maintain that position for longer than a few seconds. Why not? However, you have emerged. That is how I phrased it. What I mean is that you can get out of there, but you'll soon find that you can't escape into the present moment. And that can happen many times a day. When you emerge from that state of mind, you may find yourself asking, "Oh, I've lost the now. Where is it?" After taking a few deep breaths, you may enter your body and experience a sense of vitality that helps you tune out mental chatter. All of a sudden, you're on high alert, and along with that, you're on high alert to perceive things that you were previously virtually oblivious to because you were so absorbed in this. Mind and mental chatter cause most individuals to only be partially aware of their surroundings as they go about their daily lives. This makes it difficult to fully appreciate the beauty that is all around us. Some of you are already in that state of alert present as you step out, and you detect a non-conceptual knowing. Your entire energy field is at your fingertips as you sit here. A state of attentiveness exists apart from any need to assign meaning or categorize this very second. You have labels if you need them, they are necessary at times. Asking, "What's your name?" or "What's your phone number?" will provide you the information you need, whether it's that or something else entirely. But the freedom that comes from not constantly interpreting, classifying, and judging is done in accordance with your mind's conditioning. You fail to perceive reality because of your tendency to interpret, categorize, and pass judgment in that manner. What is does not sit well with you. You are passing judgment on fact. The mind is like that. Along with it, there are zero elements that contribute to the value of life. Feeling the goodness of life at every instant, regardless of what's happening or not happening right now. With compassion, love, a profound aliveness, a tranquil aliveness, a vibrantly alive serenity, and more profound goodness. Not the transient kind that comes with joy, but the kind that some individuals experience toward the end of their lives. They abruptly detach from all of their conditioned mental habits in the final moments before the accident that kills them. Calmness, and the assurance that, underneath the surface, everything is fine, even though it seems like the worst possible scenario. You don't need to wait for a catastrophe to strike before you come to that awareness. True spiritual teaching is beautiful and powerful because of this. No, you don't need to wait for death. Every stage of death, approaching, near, and actual, offers the prospect of realization. But waiting for physical death is unnecessary, since you might not detect it even at that stage. There are some who do not. Thus, the great thing about spiritual teaching is that you actually do not require a catastrophe, unless it is really necessary, and you also do not require more severe suffering in order to reach your destination. When people's mental and emotional pain reaches an intolerable level, they may experience a sudden breakdown. Although it's a psychological death, it could be likened to a physical one. The mental framework of me that has caused me so much pain finally gives out and disintegrates. In other words, it auto-destructs. Edmund Burroughs. It's another approach. Thus, all these ways have been offered by life. You will experience both death and misery as a result of it. Very lovely. As a result, you now know who you are in essence. Lastly, and most importantly, it imparts spiritual wisdom. Excellent spiritual guidance, but it is only applicable to the receptive. Unfortunately, not everyone is in that state of readiness just now. Those who aren't prepared to hear must face death or great pain before they can understand. Some people are prepared to listen. Tell me what they're prepared to hear. They are prepared to hear that a catastrophe is not necessary to discover your identity. You are not deserving of any further mental or emotional anguish unless you learn. In the end, it's expressing that you won't require any further time to be rid of it. You do not require additional time. That is the core of spiritual instruction. The collective human mind is telling you, no, I need more time to find myself, to be myself, to arrive, to make it, to complete myself, to finish the story of me that is going through my head. And every part of that mind is conditioned. I require time because it remains incomplete every day. The conditioned mind is full of messages that say, I need time. This need for future gratification is psychological. I need time because I'm not enough. I need more of this. I need more of that to complete myself. And that is true on an activity level. It does take time for everything. It does take time to learn new things, expand one's horizons, and go into uncharted territories. However, those are not the topics at hand. Here, we mean getting to know oneself, being authentic and aware of one's own identity. Examples of this kind of thinking. That is why, according to spiritual teachings, you don't need additional time to break free of the conditioned mind, which has been conditioned for thousands of years. Becoming timeless does not require a few more millennia to remove thousands of years of conditioning. You can get by with less time. I have so much time on my hands. To dissolve that, I would need at least another 5,000 years. Once we learn how to focus, it's hard to see how we could spend our time otherwise. The spiritual message teaches you not only that more time is not necessary, but that time itself is the ultimate illusion that keeps you from experiencing the completeness of the present moment. Everything that you are, your inherent vitality, your wholeness, your essence, is already present and complete. The passage of time is irrelevant. Therefore, the manner in which this insight comes to you is essentially irrelevant. In the end, it's possible to argue that spiritual teachings and teachers are unnecessary, since, in the face of death, we will all understand it. By bringing unimaginable suffering to themselves and others on earth, which appears to be the result of delusions and unconsciousness, which they are, they will awaken when the pain they have inflicted becomes intolerable. Those who are open to receiving spiritual teachings can find them in the one existence that existed before form, thanks to God's favor. Their reasoning is that you don't need more time and you have suffered enough. The pain has been worth it. Without having experienced some of it, none of us would be here. Definitely not me. In that case, I have no idea. There you have it. So far, so good. You've come this far because of it. Now you can hear the message and know it's true. But you'd never have gotten this far if the truth hadn't been stirring within you. However, we all also carry around the weight of our conditioned minds, which may have been dormant for some time. It's sort of out of sight. It is only passable. Something incredibly strong has brought you here, and something even more powerful has kept you here, despite the fact that it threatens another aspect of you, the portion of you that has been socially conditioned. Having to endure this place and the news of your own demise, or what you take to be my demise, is terrifying. The end of identifying with myself, my story, my this, my that, my difficulties, and so on, is finally the death of an illusion. However, every once in a while, over the following several days, you might feel the old wind rumbling back inside. Am I even here? I don't understand. Alternatively, mental anguish. Your mind is suddenly consumed with the old accumulated pain. When your pain body is active, it causes you to think negative ideas, whether they're hurtful to yourself or others. Look at them. They are not spiritual. I'm more spiritual. Look, they're just gossiping. That's not spiritual. Or they point out, oh, these people, they're so spiritual. They've been at it for years, and I've only been at it for a year. They know so much more than I. Next, someone says, you don't want to be here. Where can I run to? If I am unable to physically flee, I'll mentally escape to a troubled future that I'll have to confront next week, along with a series of other things that I'll have to handle next week. The next step is to mentally practice how you will handle the situation. At this moment, it is not the case. Life isn't complicated, which is why you're sitting under a tree. In this way, the 73rd day of the week seems a time in life. It feels like a day of the week. All the complexity in my life is something I made up in my head. The present moment is reality. Therefore, it's easy to understand. For whatever reason, you may be finding that the situation you're in right now is difficult. When you give yourself up to this moment, though, you'll also find the strength to handle any challenges it brings. You lose much of your power when you avoid dealing with it entirely because you're distracted. And that's its allure. There is power available when you face what is open and embrace this moment. Illumination takes time to develop, and when you're ready, it's costly to stay away by ignoring a challenge and embrace this moment. Taking stock of the here and now leads to the right course of action. End footnote. You focus on completing a single task at a time. No matter how many items you have piling up, eventually one will stand out and demand your attention. You must do this. In response to the question, can you explain the essence of Zen? A Zen master once stated, doing one thing at a time. This is the essence of Zen. Zen, doing one item at a time while giving one's undivided attention to it, is a concept that leaves little mental space for building things up. Being fully present in the here and now includes that fullness. It's never being somewhere else and not wanting to be here at all. It's always being fully present. However, it's that unequivocal yes to the present instant, the only thing that has ever been. And that brings a sense of fulfillment to your existence. Along with that wholeness comes immense strength. Not ego-based strength, but intelligence, vitality, and yes, love and compassion. When you're whole, love blossoms. Therefore, you can be fully present no matter where you are. You might as well immerse yourself fully in it if it's a bad place, because this is the present. Actually, just because you've given up your internal opposition doesn't mean you're doomed to be in that place you despise indefinitely. No. The wonder is in facing it head-on, without the inner contraction that comes with existing. That is, the no, not merely a mental no that criticizes and condemns what is or imagines a better future. In your mental and physical energy fields, it manifests as a firm no as well. Your inner energy field is physically contracted when you say no to what is. But it is not transitory, such as our breath, the sounds of nature, the colors of flowers, the feel of snow. No. In your mental and physical energy fields, it manifests as a firm no as well. Your inner energy field is physically contracted when you say no to what is. No. Along those lines, the majority of individuals lead their lives. So there are three different kinds of no: the mental, the emotional, and the bodily, in the form of a contraction. Afterwards, you're able to say, okay, there's enough presence in you that you can now experiment and say, okay, I've lived with the no for 45 years, 50 years. I'll try something else now. What is? I'll give it a go. Why should I risk anything? And then you'll spend a day or a week practicing, okay, let's see how I experience life when I say yes. Come internally to this moment. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon for you to fail, because the no is ingrained in your mind, your state of constriction, and your conditioning. But you've grown to the point where you can perceive it. Now that you've identified the no and the contraction, you can break free of them. You already have freedom. You can now leave the room. Looking around is like going out into the open air. Once again, there it is. While you are here, there is no need to seek perfection of yourself. As one spiritual writer puts it, you will often observe that state of no returning, which he calls living in Contraction City. At least while you're here on retreat, you don't have to force yourself to be fully present in the here and now. There is no use in continuing if you are not capable of handling this at this moment. That isn't necessary. No. Staying in a yes mood for the remainder of the week is not necessary. It's not an easy task. How can I spend the remainder of this week focusing on the here and now? Its non-necessity is its beauty. This little second is all that is required. The only thing that is required is receptivity to this very second, rather than anticipating the next. Right now, there is no tomorrow. This alone, for the purpose of knowing what goes along with it. If you're in a state of contraction, you can recognize it by saying, oh, there it is. Then, you can relax and experience the sensation and observe the results of whatever happened, even if it appears to be an unsavory emotional or mental condition that is incompatible with enlightenment. That too comes up, and you are fine with it. No worries. This, in whatever shape it may take, is now acceptable. Welcome to the present. Therefore, that is perfection, not striving for an idealized version of oneself. I need to become a master, a spiritual master. How am I going to get there? The master asks. The only difference between you and the master, unless you're already a master and simply enjoying listening to all this, is that the master is fully present, not fighting against anything, and is open and wholeheartedly accepting of the present moment in all its manifestations. The question is, where is this moment going to take me? The master says, close your eyes. The forms are in a constant state of flux, and the master is not at odds with the now, but rather in harmony with it. As a result, the master is in harmony with the essence of existence, the boundless energy that permeates all things and may pass through them. Thus, that is the sole distinction. There is no standard of perfection that you should strive to achieve. Like you didn't have enough problems already, that's a major additional one. All it takes is being in harmony with whatever is now experiencing a sense of yes for you. That is the expert. Thus, the focus is not on making things better as they are. Sometimes that's just a natural consequence of being in a condition of acceptance. Not trying to improve yourself at all. Your true purpose here is not to better yourself. Some of you may have spent years toiling away at this heavy stuff. You may ask yourself, well, is that ever going to come to an end? If you think you have, you may keep developing yourself indefinitely on that level. However, remembering a higher plane where this tiny being dwells, flaws and all, and it's okay, it makes no difference. A small part of my life's narrative, together with my experiences, lessons learned and hardships, is bound together in this thing I call you. You gave this thing a name, but you didn't pick it out for yourself. The person who wrote that on it is not me, it was someone else. And its own. Visually, certain bundles stand out more than others. Your basic material consisted of several bundles of myself that were given horrible, terrible things, and then bound together. Even when I thought, no, that's not enough, that's not really me, I'm really all those nice things in my bundle, I still felt an underlying sense of anxiety and fear, even when other bundles were filled with more pleasant items. So, adding anything to the bundle of me won't make much of a difference, no matter how you tweak it. Just so you know, I'm not saying you shouldn't work on yourself. That makes sense on one hand, since expanding one's knowledge is always rewarding. Still, you won't be able to see any physical progress from your workouts, or even get yourself there. That's fantastic. But getting better at yourself is the harder part of what this is all about. Whatever you're doing is fine. Don't expect to find satisfaction or pleasure there. I'm not suggesting you give it up. According to Eastern philosophy, bad karma would be the appropriate term to describe the consequences of accepting a life filled with unpleasant experiences that you likely did not enjoy. Well, it has led you to this point. I don't think it was that terrible. We managed to pull it off. Until they meet their demise, some people with a poor bundle of things go there faster than others with a good bundle of things. Of me, I was fortunate, it occurred, and my bundle popped, even though it wasn't great. Thus, you can hone your mastery skills while you're here. Absolutely not. I am not implying that you should act as if you are the boss. No, you aren't acting. If only for a fleeting second, you can experience absolute dominion when you harmonize with reality. Well, that's the whole of it. Before you know it, you're no longer a master, and then all of a sudden, yep, you're back. As you experience more and more yeses in circumstances that would ordinarily elicit a resounding no, when you sense the yes emerging in what would ordinarily be deemed as unsavory, undesired, or even totally unacceptable, you will come to appreciate the potency of this phenomenon. That is why you never distract yourself from the context in which the true possibilities have the potential to emerge. The here and now is where these occurrences take place. Bad things do occur. I have a sticker that says something like this. I'm paraphrasing. When awful things happen, the key is to say yes to what is, to the now, and to what happened, without compromising. That means you can stop relying on this bad thing that pops up in the here and now. Everything is accepted just as it is, whether it's an internal struggle, a negative emotion, or an outside incident. As if from nowhere, something happens. The words just don't seem to fit. In contrast to the transient nature of things like shape, emotion, event, person, and catastrophe, something far grander and immensely more expansive emerges. With it, an unwavering yes. It may be a sickness that takes time away from you, forcing you to live in the present now. Being granted more time is among the most wonderful things that might happen to you. You're obligated. Nobody has a lot of time, and there's a lot of uncertainty. It's just a deception. That amount of time is not available to anyone in this room. Pretty soon it will be over. Still, you can fool yourself into thinking, "Oh, I've got plenty of time. Plenty of time." Then, something bad happens, like getting sick or old, and you realize that you really do have less and less time. Diminutive duration. When that happens, most people run to their pasts for comfort. Whatever it takes to escape the here and now, they do it by dwelling on or talking about the past. Because what I'm about to say is hard to put into words, I'll just say that when something is fully embraced, you become acutely aware of the here and now. The here and now takes precedence above all else. Whatever occurs, occurs because you are more attuned to a field beneath, a spaciousness. Now you know more, and it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Initially, it remains unnoticed. Some mysterious, soothing element is there in the background. There appears to be a calmness at first, which runs counter to all that is going on. Your awareness of the now as a spaciousness, rather than the event or emotion occurring within it, grows as it progresses. And that is the core of everything. You can take all the spiritual and esoteric wisdom passed down through the generations and boil it down to that. However, no one has quite said it that way before, and that is because a fresh perspective is necessary for each generation. Mentally attempting to comprehend it could also prove challenging. Catch it if you can. Pointing is all the words do. You feel a heightened awareness of the present moment as a living presence, a vastness where everything occurs. What does the roominess feel like to you? It is already here. You don't need to grasp it or seek it out. Just by letting go, you'll discover it. The spaciousness can be discovered by allowing. No matter what shape it takes, whether it's an emotion or an event, good or awful, amazing or terrible, just let it be because you give it permission. No, you're not against it. Conflict is a source of identity for people because it fortifies their sense of self, or me. The more the me is able to resist the force of reality, the more secure it feels about its place in the world. Standing in defiance of reality just serves to fortify your false sense of self. People do it because it makes them feel stronger, the me part of them. They are seeking their own interests. They want to fortify their identity by rejecting the status quo. And it does its job, sort of. Their delusion becomes more solidified. Despite their best efforts, they actually feel worse. However, it is referred to as, "I feel better now. Now I know who I am." When you give up to what is, the small me fears that its psychological form, its form identity, will lose its confines. As it searches for a more solidified sense of self, it becomes more malleable and reactive. There we go. In letting go of control, you transcend form, in whatever shape it may take. You enter the spaciousness by allowing. Beyond that, it helps you understand that your core is not defined by external factors. It's not this concrete shape. I don't identify with it as a psychological me. Plus, all of a sudden there's this incredible freedom that is still possible to receive while incarcerated. A total release from the constraints of a reactive interaction with forms could materialize. In fact, it's the polar opposite of that. It means you are still dealing with problems. Even when you don't feel the need to react, you nevertheless answer magnificently when prompted. Strangely, every word has a shape, making this extremely difficult to discuss. Something else is hinted at by it. This lovely location is perfect for your practice sessions. A tiny paradise where you can stroll around the lawn or even on the grass while climbing the trees. And you observe, there is a core that eludes your understanding. Certainly these forms are aesthetically pleasing, but they are only a part of a larger whole. That, as a field of quiet, under the surface, is palpable. You don't really need to keep much of this in mind. Nothing you do here will bring you closer to your goal. Nothing will come out of your time here. Simply said, focusing on the past, future, effort, struggle, and dissatisfaction will lead you nowhere if you believe you are here to accomplish a state. You're only a bystander. Become more in tune with the present moment. Will it be a while? Inquires of the thinking set here. Sure and no. Undoubtedly, there is time on the outside realm. There is a specific time when we gather here. This is where we stay for a while. However, it all suggests a more profound aspect of the everlasting. That same teaching manifests itself in several ways. The majority of the forms are quite old. You might be able to discover the same message if you investigate old teachings. However, you must free the message from the cultural accretions surrounding the instruction, as well as the foreign languages and unusual terms. To a certain extent, this is the same thing that is emerging here. The old lessons are not being disregarded by me. In addition to being aesthetically pleasing, they will continue to serve your purpose once you extract their essence. This is the identical lesson, maybe with a little more encouragement thrown in. Because, well, this has both positive and negative aspects. Time is of the essence, in more ways than one. And that is exactly what I was about to say. Time is running out, which is a blessing. They had plenty of time when the old wisdoms emerged. For a few more thousand years, humanity could afford to stay unconscious and insane. Maybe we have another 100 years to act completely irrationally before we're done. I've already discussed pride, but it bears repeating because it promised to be something of a serious talker. Earth would have reached its limit, and by then, people would have wreaked so much destruction that they would have violently ended their own existence. In a word, for the sake of silence, do we have anything we can turn off? The expanse of tranquility is ours to enjoy. In the end, tranquility comes from inside. However, the tranquility outside can act as a boon. In this technological age, I suppose there's always going to be some level of noise. You can find a field of calmness beneath any commotion by focusing on the silence. In most cases, when you're able to notice the mind, all you can hear are the sounds that emerge. You would be interested in and attentive to that. As a rule, people don't pay attention to the quiet that surrounds them, from which sounds emanate, and into which they eventually fade away. The field, the foundational quiet field. So, there is complete silence when you stroll around nature here. I suggest this exercise. Focus more on the expanse of silence than on any sound you may hear. The sounds are lovely in their natural state and present regardless. Lots of little creatures come to life and make noise at night, so there is a lot of noise overall. Additionally, there is a foundational field. You could say it's the background against which the sounds are created. This is the tranquil field. Therefore, you give that some thought. That is also conveyed in some musical styles, such as the Japanese flute. Perhaps we have heard it earlier in the day. Here we might hear a little more. The noises are a metaphor for the stillness from whence they emanate. When the sounds merely serve to draw the listener's attention away from themselves and into the stillness, they are playing music of the highest spiritual level. The beauty lies in the fact that the mind becomes calm as one listens to and pays attention to silence. Otherwise, you won't be able to hear the stillness. All that the mind may focus on is what emerges from the stillness, whether it be a shape or a sound. Paying attention to silence is the first step beyond thinking. Simply put, you can't pay attention to stillness via thought. It lacks any shape or substance. Therefore, there's nothing to consider. Once again, this diminutive apparatus has the power to transport you to that transcendental realm of awareness known as spaciousness. Furthermore, Your experience of being in nature will be enhanced when you stroll through it. One can feel the immense sanctity that permeates all of nature when they direct their focus to that expanse of tranquility. Furthermore, that goes beyond the forms, many of whose elements contain all sorts of forms of energy, such as that which permeates the sky and the ground beneath it. Not only are they lovely in their own right, but all these forms emerge from a single cohesive whole, a field. To put it simply, that is what it means to be sacred. So the sounds you hear are just your thoughts popping into your head. The stillness within, which is pure awareness before thoughts emerge, is analogous to the quiet from which sounds emerge. I have a few small passages. You could hear me refer to them as bridges. Permitting this very instant to exist might be the most potent gateway at times. Further, that transcends shape as well. Listening to silence, particularly in natural settings, is another doorway. Further, that transcends shape as well. Speaking of which, you might not always experience complete quiet in this culture. Finding a quiet spot might be challenging at times, but you'll be surprised to know that it's possible to become aware of a field of calm beneath the surface of even the most loud environments. In the end, it all starts from inside, and ultimately it becomes irrelevant. Even in the midst of a bustling metropolis, with all the traffic swirling around you, you may find a profound sense of calm within. When you accept what is, you enter that state of calm. The repetitive sound refuses to let go, regardless of what may be. As a means to liberation and contentment within, this investigation probed the deep concept of embracing the here and now in all its manifestations. Saying yes to whatever is, without opposition, was emphasized, be it a challenging feeling, an outside force, or even a sickness. A sense of spaciousness and quiet that went beyond the fleeting shapes and emotions that came up was revealed when one totally accepted the now, from source to effect. In such a life, no sickness could arise. True freedom, according to this philosophy, is derived from being fully present in the here and now, unencumbered by the past or the future. It further emphasized the significance of internal and external moments of quiet and calm as gateways to this heightened consciousness. Its ultimate goal was to help people become more in tune with the present moment and less reactive to life's ups and downs, so that they might feel a stronger bond to what it is to be alive. It is likely that your desire to develop as a person and to be present in the moment was the driving force behind your decision to view this video. This decision was made as a result of a more fundamental insight. It is for this reason that I strongly recommend that you subscribe to this channel so that you can continue your journey of self-discovery with the assistance of the new videos that we upload each day. Always, immediately after you have comprehended the seriousness of this caution, kindly answer by writing now, putting forth the effort. We will be able to finish this.